Hi, I'm in Wales. I'm in a famous retreat centre, Fawley Brenin. There's the behind. Oh, look at that. Oh, that looks interesting. Hope you can hear me because I haven't got my microphone and there's a little bit of wind, hopefully not much. Tempted to talk about experiences here, but I'm only halfway through the experience, so it would be incomplete. Those of you who listen to my podcast on Monday, I will cover it then. Suffice to say, it's been a very positive experience. We all had to declare, we were given 10 minutes last night just to say where we are at in our writing journey. Everyone else are basically writers who are writing books for the publishers, Malcolm Down. But I didn't want to talk about my books. I could have done, but I'm here for a very different purpose, and it's to do with script writing. You know, it's still this question: am I deluding myself? Now, interestingly, I've really had a couple of words of knowledge. One specifically this morning, as a result of me talking about my desires to be a secular scriptwriter, or scriptwriter in the secular world, and it was a very positive word. The lady said, you know, wherever your joy is, that's where you should go. That was the word specifically. Maybe it's not a general word for everyone, but she felt it was specifically for me. This is someone I've never met before. No axe to grind, you know, no ties with her at all, but that's how she felt. That, you know, if script writing is floating my boat, then the Lord has put it there for a purpose, so I'll go along with that. Now I'm writing the third in my series on the curiosities, or the Tales of the Unexpected series. This is sort of a personal one. It's changing history a little bit because I wanted to do one based on my mum and dad. Now, because my mum's not with us anymore, and it's very much an alternative history, and it does focus on her. And the story is this, and this is a true story. My mum, when she was about 6 or 7, she was evacuated to Huntingdon, Cambridgeshire, and she was very badly treated. She said by, you know, the posh lady who ran the house and the family, were very anti-Semitic. And my mum was never specific, simply to say that she begged to come home, and she didn't stay long there at all, came back early just in time for the Blitz, basically. So that's what's piqued my imagination. So I've created a scenario based on what actually happened to my mum, in terms of particularly the grandson of the household in Huntingdon, who would have been about the same age as my mum, which is like 7 or 8. So the situation is this: it's now modern day, and my mum is in hospital on the ward, and she's got something like an infection, so they're keeping an eye on her. And what happens is that my dad, or the character playing him, as has happened before, has a fall and ends up in hospital, and they think, well, we might as well put them in the same ward in beds together, because, you know, they've been married for 70 years and they can comfort each other. So they bung him in the bed. And so a lot of because the basic theme of the series is love and death, we see this love between my mum and dad, because it was very much love-hate, and it is, I suppose, a bit of a comedy, and so we see a lot of interactions between them. But there's 2 twists. One twist is that a new chap arrives, and of course it is the boy who she met, she calls him the Hitler boy, where she stayed in Huntingdon. He's now in his 90s, and he just happened to be put in the next bed to my mum. So there's a dynamic there: my mum, my dad, and this person from the past. Then there's a parallel story, which has absolutely nothing to do with this is a little bit of a comedy, sort of, I suppose, black comedy, in that there's this old lady very rich, who's also in their care home, and she has a daughter who basically is very grasping and's got her eye on her money, and she's waiting for her mum to die, and her mum doesn't die. She's too well, and she hits her 90s, and it looked like she's going to go on forever. But this daughter is very impatient, so she hires someone to see, you know, to give her mum a fatal injection. And she was just waiting for the right moment, and the right moment came when her mum was admitted to hospital just for an overnight stay. And of course it's the same hospital, it's the same ward. So here's her mum in a bed, and this incompetent hitman comes along, and this is a little bit complex. I hope I explain it properly. So okay, the hitman comes in and he's got this fatal injection in his pocket. He arrives, and it's night time. He arrives into the ward, and in the bed next to the old lady is a gentleman, an elderly gentleman, who needs to go to the toilet. So he presses the buzzer, the nurse comes, or the orderly comes, takes him to the toilet. While he's gone, this is when our assassin arrives. So the assassin approaches the bed of the lady with his syringe waiting. Suddenly there's a noise, and the doctor arrives to do his rounds, and the assassin panics and jumps into the bed, the empty bed, you know, the bloke that's gone to the toilet, and puts the cover over him and just pretends to be the bloke. So the doctor comes to that bed and says, oh well, he's there. There's the syringes on the side table on that plate. He's supposed to have had his sort of night syringe, if there's such a thing. The nurse has obviously forgotten to do it. I'll save her the bother, I'll syringe him now. So the doctor syringes the assassin and basically kills him. At the same time, the bloke who went to the toilet has a heart attack on the toilet. So we now have two dead bodies. So the orderlies thought they've taken the patient to the mortuary. They come back and find someone else in his bed, who's like about 80 years younger, or about 70 years younger. So that's as far as I got. But most of the plot will revolve around that night of my mum and the boy who was persecuting her. What happens? And I'm going to write that this afternoon. So at this stage I've no idea, but you know something, I'm having fun doing this. I don't know where it's going to go, if anywhere, but I'm having great fun. And you know, I'm also here for other reasons, but you know, we've got to have fun, don't we, sometimes. So I'll leave it at that. I hope this worked out okay, because there's a little bit of a wind here, so hopefully it's okay.